Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena. Tomorrow we leave Ireland. We're going to be sailing 300 nautical miles south to France. If we were to sail directly from Baltimore here in Ireland to Brest in France, that would probably take us a little over 2.5 days. My name is Mess, this is my wife Ava. I've spent the last 5 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Warrior 38 named Athena. That was a DIY fun-packed adventure complete with a very extensive osmosis treatment, building a new rudder using vacuum infusion, rebuilding the entire deck, gutting and subsequently rebuilding most of the interior, painting the topsides, and a ton of other projects. The summer of 2021 we started cruising full time. Now we're finally ready to begin our adventure. We're up here in Baltimore and we want to go all the way down here to Brest. More or less at the halfway point on the rum line, we have the Isles of Scilly. The Isles of Scilly is a fantastic stop. We were fortunate enough to spend a few days there earlier in the summer, and we would love to go back. However, this time around, we only have maybe 1 day to spend there because we are a little bit pressed for time. Looking at the weather forecast, it might actually be in our own best interest to spend a night in the Isles of Scilly, because if we look at the weather on Friday, it is going to turn more southerly, which is annoying when you want to go south. If we just spend a single night in the Isles of Scilly, well, then we should have much more favorable westerly winds. If we leave tomorrow morning, it looks like we'll have about 28 hours of northwesterly or westerly winds at around 15 knots, which is perfect. But there's a little bit of a joker here, and that's the sea state. This is a forecast model for a sea state, and there's a lot of angry looking purple stuff on here. That is remnants from the last couple of days where we've had very high winds. Even though it's only going to be blowing 15 knots tomorrow, which is not enough to cause that bad of a sea state, well, we'll still have the remnants of the old stuff to deal with, which can be plenty uncomfortable. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We've already done all our usual pre-departure checks, so engine coolant, oil, belts, rigging, stuff like that, and most of the boat is squared away. So all that's left to do now is just to go to bed and fall asleep with crossed fingers that tomorrow is not going to be super uncomfortable. And we're off to the races. We've done all of about 4 miles. So far, so good. But we are still in the lee of the islands to the west of us. So in terms of wind, well, there's nothing. And in terms of sea state, well, it's, well, basically nothing too. How are you feeling about the trip to France, Ava?
Oh, I'm feeling quite a mix of emotions because I want to get to France because I have my flight on the 6th, so I want to get there as soon as possible, but I also don't want my desire to get there as soon as possible to cloud our judgments when trying to get there. Like I want to make sure we're safe, and I know you're nervous, and then I also get nervous that if you're too nervous, then you'll get seasick because seasick is just in your mind. But all in all, I feel mixed emotions, but I think it's gonna be okay. The wind is looking good. We keep checking it. I think it'll be good that we stop in the Scillies. So yeah, I think we just have to keep clear minds and yeah, try and get there as soon, but also as safe as possible.
The only thing that has me a little bit concerned is the sea state. We don't really know what to expect, and after my recent bout with seasickness when we left Cherbourg, I am just a little bit nervous about sea state, so yeah, fingers crossed it won't be too bad. Because we are going to be sailing downwind in potentially light-ish winds that might struggle to fill the sails, with a fair bit of rolling from side to side because of the sea state, I decided to rig our preventer on the main to stabilize the boom and also prevent any potential decapitations. Okay.
It's about noon and Mads just went down for his first nap of the day. That's what we like to do for overnights. It's what we did last time. We just take naps back and forth whenever we feel tired, and that seems to work out really well for us. And the sun's out right now. It's 55. We were nervous it was going to be overcast today, and it is not. It's so nice. It's just nice, especially when you have a long journey, when the sun's up and it's not raining. And also the sea state so far seems pretty good. We were nervous that it was going to be a little choppy and crazy, but there's just like a nice big long swells, and it's been pretty comfortable.
We're about 40 miles into our journey to the Isles of Scilly, and we're trucking along at 5.5 knots. It's fairly comfortable out here, a little bit bouncy, but not too bad.
As we're slowly drifting further away from Ireland, we are a little bit sad because we really enjoyed our time there. We definitely didn't get as much time as we had planned, and we didn't get as far as we wanted to, but we're still really glad we got to see the places that we did.
Yep, and I'm especially glad that we got to go there and meet all the people we met, because
Yes.
I don't think I've ever gotten that warm of a welcome anywhere else in the world.
Everywhere we went, just people were just not even just sailing people, just like people in the grocery store, people on the street. Everybody was just so friendly.
Yep, that was really awesome. And I'm also glad we got to see some of that rugged nature I wanted to see out by Baltimore that we didn't. Well, that we got to see that. I mean, we didn't get to go as far north as I would have liked, but yeah, it's okay.
Yep, we'll save it for another trip.
Yes. As the sun is starting to set, we have almost reached an important milestone. We're almost halfway to the Isles of Scilly. We have another 78 nautical miles to do. I believe the halfway point is at 75, so we're getting very close. It's starting to get dark, so we better turn on our nav lights, and that is gonna be our steaming light because we've got the engine on right now, and our nav lights. The technology that allows me to turn on our nav lights from the chart plotter is called digital switching. Every time I mention that or show that, I always get a few comments saying that I'm making things too complicated. But I actually think it makes things simpler because you'll have less wires running inside of your boat, and it's also more convenient to turn on the nav lights from the chart plotter. And if the digital switching fails, then the failsafe is simply just moving a fuse inside of the digital switching box. So yeah, I don't really see what's complicated about digital switching. To preserve our night vision and also for added mood, we've turned on the red lights down below. We're fully ready for the night. It should start getting dark very soon, and yesterday was a new moon, so it's going to be a very dark night, but it is still summer here, so I think around 4 o'clock it should start getting light again. So it's not that long of a night.
It's around 3 a.m. right now, and Mads and I switched shifts about an hour ago, and things are going pretty well. We're still going about 5.5 knots, but there is not another boat or anything in sight. There's a little fishing boat that keeps bobbing around behind us, but other than that, there has been nothing or no one. And also, it is really dark outside. On our last overnight, the moon was really bright, so it was pretty light all night long, but tonight there is just like a sliver of moon. I think it's actually a new moon, so there's hardly any light tonight. There's hardly any moon, so it's pitch dark, so that's a little bit of a strange feeling, just like bobbing around in the cockpit, swaying back and forth, and not really being able to see what's going on out there. But things are still going good, and we are still chugging along.
The rest of the sail continued in the same fashion, so variable winds and very decent sea state. We got into the Isles of Scilly yesterday afternoon and basically went straight to bed. All we need to do to get to France is go out that way and make a right turn, Clyde. Ava's down below getting the boat ready to go, and I've just put in our route into the chart plotter. We have 131 nautical miles to go today, although we may change the route slightly when we get closer to France. I believe this area down here, right before we get into Brest, can get a little bit rough if we don't time the tide correctly. But because it's such a long distance, it's difficult for us to time it precisely. So we will aim for this side of all of this messiness, and then if we get to somewhere up here and we can see that we can time the tide, well, then we'll take the shortcut through here. Other than timing that bit of tide, we should also be aware that there might be a lot of shipping out there. If we take a quick peek at marine traffic, you can see that there's boats dotted around everywhere, but there's mainly these two tracks here coming and leaving the English Channel. I'm assuming those two tracks of traffic we saw is in this traffic separation scheme that is just a little bit north of Brest. Hopefully we can clear this and all the shipping while there's still a little bit of daylight out, but I don't know, it's potentially going to be close. We have radar, we have AIS, and from the 3 other crossings we've done across that shipping in the English Channel, it's never really been an issue. There always seems to be a gap where we can weasel our way through, so I'm not too concerned, but it would just be nice to do it during daylight. In terms of weather, we are looking at 12 to 15 knots, potentially a little bit gusty early in the morning tomorrow, but nothing too horrible. I think we're ready to go. The boat is all squared away. We've got our route planned. We've looked at the weather. So yeah, let's get underway and head towards France. It was on, but it's like it's not holding the heading. Ah, for f***'s sake. God dang it. We were so close. We were on our way to France. Noticed the autopilot behaved kind of weird, so took a look. Seems like something is wrong. We headed back in, anchored, and I've taken a look. It looks like the drive unit for our autopilot is dead, and we do not have a spare unit right now. So we're gonna have to modify our plan slightly. We could attempt to hand steer all the way to France, but if one of us gets seasick and we don't have autopilot, then that's gonna really suck. So I think our safest course of action is to head to the mainland UK instead, get to Plymouth, and then see if we can get our hands on a spare drive unit.
We are off to Falmouth. We should be getting there late in the evening. Mads is on the first steering shift. I think we're gonna do an hour on, an hour off. That should probably be good for us to get enough rest and get some steering in. I am not going to lie, I am completely gutted that the autopilot stopped working. I know we're safe, I know the boat's safe and everything's fine, and that's the most important part, but I think we both have been really anxious about getting to France in time. I have to get to Paris by the 6th for a flight out back to Michigan because my sister's having a baby. So I really want to get home in time for that, and you know, sailing on a deadline is never fun. I think we need a little nourishment right now to help us feel better, maybe emotionally eat. I pre-made some breakfast sandwiches, so I think I'll make us some. You want one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
What followed was 10 hours of oh glorious hand steering. Hand steering is not the end of the world, but it does get a little bit tiring after 3 or 4 hours. We could have pushed on towards France, but with only the 2 of us aboard and no working autopilot, that could easily have left us in a less than desirable situation. We've had a beautiful night at anchor. Now yesterday on the way here, we spent a lot of time figuring out what to do. We need to get Ava on her flight and we need to get the boat somewhere where I can fix the drive unit and also do the other projects I want to do on the boat while Ava is in the US. And I think the best option for us is to head to Plymouth, which is about 40 miles from here. I've done a quick visual inspection on the drive unit of the Autopilot and there's nothing to see really, but it does make a very weird noise. And it seems broken, and I'm sure there's something wrong internally in it. Now, on the way here yesterday, I checked Garmin's website, and unfortunately, it looks like to get a new one here is going to be 5 to 8 weeks. Today is Sunday, so there's not a lot I can do about it today, but tomorrow morning, I'm going to get on the horn first thing and start tracking down a replacement or spare parts. We are here, we want to go there. Let's get underway.
Before we forget, we need to put up our British courtesy flag. We really did not think we were going to need this again.
After 8 hours of glorious hand steering, we made it to Plymouth. We'd already called ahead to Mayflower Marina and confirmed that we could stay there for the next month. After a short trip up the river, we were greeted by a friendly pair of hands to help with our mooring lines. I'm all settled in here in Plymouth. This morning we got Ava on a train to Paris so that she could catch her flight to the US, so everything on that front is good. And packages that I'll need for the next month or so here in Plymouth have started showing up. This is, for instance, a new fuel pump for the genset, and I've also received some plywood. And much more importantly, a new Autopilot drive unit. We got incredibly lucky. These are not supposed to be back in stock until September, but Garmin managed to find this one unit for us. I've talked to Garmin technical support, I've talked to a local installer, and I've talked to the manufacturer of these actuators, which coincidentally is only located 40 miles from here, which is kind of coinciding. I mean, what are the chances of a doohickey breaking and then completely by chance you end up 40 miles from the people that manufactured? Anywho, all of these people all say that the failure rate on these units is very, very low. Apparently they are very reliable. I wholeheartedly believe that my installation here aboard Athena is within spec. But because these units so rarely fail, I just want to make absolutely 110% sure that our old unit did not fail because of my installation. So over the coming next weeks, I hope to get a professional installer here to just check everything out. Just make absolutely sure that this didn't fail because of something I did. It's always been my plan to have a complete separate backup drive unit here aboard Athena for the Atlantic crossing. We just haven't ordered that yet, but as soon as they're back in stock, well, then we'll order an extra drive unit. I want to give a great big thank you to Garmin for going above and beyond in getting us this replacement unit. Any kind of doohickey, whether it's a mechanical doohickey or an electronic doohickey, can break. It's inevitable. What's important is how the company that sold you that item behaves when that happens. And here, Garmin was spot on. They were fast, super professional, perfect. We didn't end up in the country where I was planning on spending the next month working on the boat, but in terms of places to end up, I think Plymouth is basically perfect. So next week I get started on the DIY projects. And on that note, I hope to see all of you guys back here aboard Athena for yet more DIY fun. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like. See you!